What's going on YouTube? Today for this episode, we're reviewing 2006's Superman Returns.
Yo, what's good, people? Welcome back to the No Level Cap podcast with all your friendly neighborhood black nerds, where we cover all the anime, all the gaming, all the nerd culture, none of the BS. Back with a new episode every Monday morning. I am your host, Sage Ashford. These are my co-hosts, Rajhkeem Beck, Devin Butts, Terance Flowers. Like Devin said, this week we're covering 2006's Superman Returns. Written by Michael Dougherty, Dan Harris, who also co-wrote X2. Directed by Bryan Singer, who directed basically every X-Men film, but is now rightfully banished to the island of Weinstein for being kind of a fucking creep. The film cost $223 million, grossed about $391 million, which is you want to make double at least to clear the marketing costs. So it's not a surprise that they did not make another one of these. But it's quite the film. I kind of want to just go ahead and dive into it really quickly, because we got a lot of film to talk about. It's the movie was 154 minutes long, which is why I was kind of surprised they wasted 5 minutes on the opening, but whatever.
Okay, I'm not the only person that thought that opening was kind of
long.
Like, all right, this in one piece is half the movie.
It's like, let's just get to it. But yeah, Terance, what'd you think of the film?
So I'll say that I told you all this earlier, but I saw this film as a teenager. I remember all the marketing around it. I remember that it was a big deal that Superman was returning, which how many years had it been? Had it been exactly 20 years from Superman 4 to this one?
No.
How long
Superman
was it?
4 came out in 1987.
Okay, so it was
about
19.
19, yeah.
Okay, which is kind of funny how we're reviewing this movie 19 years later with Superman, the new Superman coming out this year, 2025. So that's funny. But yeah, the fact that the franchise for the most part had been dormant for, we'll just say 20 years, and it coming back, it was a big deal at the time. And I remember at the time not having this film in like really the highest regard. I remember bits and pieces of it, but I don't remember liking it that much. But I am glad, having seen the Christopher Reeve movies lately, that I have a deeper appreciation for this one. I can see what they were trying to do, even if it's not like the perfect film. I do think that it's a great film, but I think it has its flaws. I will say that it's really cool that this is a follow-up to the Christopher Reeve movies, and how it has so many callbacks to those movies. There's a lot of references, a lot of little Easter eggs that are in there, even from the way that it ends is a callback to those movies, how, Superman would always be flying off into the sun. And yeah, I think that was really cool. I think the cast, what they've done here is neat in that everyone really does feel like a spiritual successor to the person that was in the OG movies. Like Kate Bosworth is Lois. She feels very much like Lois. Parker Posey.
What a great Lois.
Yeah, she was great Lois. Parker Posey as Kitty feels very much like Miss Teschmacher from the OG movies, like to a T. Sam Huntington as Jimmy, like he fits that role very well. And of course,
he did a great job. But also, like, it's been years. This man was supposed to be grown into like a proper reporter, and he still got that dumbass bow tie on, and he still act like a fucking kid around Clark. I don't know what I understand what they was going for, but they should have shown a little more growth in that character.
Yeah, it was very much them paying respect to like 70s Superman and not really moving forward from that decade, which I'm sure a lot of you will bring up. Putting everything aside with Kevin Spacey, of course, everything that's transpired with him over the past 10 years, he's an excellent Lex. Like he's a really good Lex.
He crushed it.
He fills the role that he fills the shoes of Gene Hackman. Rest in peace to him, very well. Like he does an excellent job with the role. Like his mannerisms, he feels like Lex. And I think that, and getting on to Brandon Roth, like, it's a shame that we only got one Superman movie out of him, because I feel like there was so much potential that could have been had with him, you know?
I do, as someone that grew up, well, not grew up, but like someone who watched a lot of the CW verse stuff, it was cool to see him here because they do reference it again. He doesn't play Superman normally in the CW verse, but there's a part where they do like the multiverse and they go to an Earth that has Superman and he's got like the black S and whatnot. And he was great there. And I'm seeing like, okay, he had time to mature and he's an even better Superman in the CW verse than he is here. And he's pretty solid here.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like Henry Cavill. It's just like there's a curse with Superman where you have a great actor that portrays a character, but then it feels like they don't do enough with him. And, you know, fingers crossed that the new Superman doesn't do that. But yeah, it kind of sucks that everyone here, we only got to see them play this role once, because I would have liked to have seen them tackle these roles again. You know, visually, I still think the movie looks good. Nothing really looks dated per se, but I mean, it's only been 19 years. But, you know, there's some films where the CG does look a little bit more dated and it's 20 years old. So this film, I think, actually is doing pretty good by those standards. I will say that probably my biggest critique of the movie is that it plays it a little too safe. In trying to pay respects to the Christopher Reeve movies, it feels like it treads the same waters a little too much. Like, pretty much this is just the first Superman movie rehashed. I mean, we're back to Lex being a landmonger. Him wanting to like create his own piece of land that everybody's gonna like buy into. You have Lois and Superman's very like will they won't they kind of relationship, except it's awkward because you have Richard in there, and it kind of
it's really awkward now.
It feels this movie feels very much like you versus the man that she told you not to worry about. It's really what this film is. Unfortunately,
it's like the epitome of that.
Yeah, and I do think this film could have done something more interesting with the whole idea of Superman being gone for 5 years. Like, even the fact that Lois wrote that article about why the world doesn't need Superman anymore is like, why couldn't we have like found out more about that? Like, how people actually felt about him being gone. Did crime go up? Did things like drastically change on like an international relations level? I just think there's so much more that could have been explored with that idea that the film kept kind of teasing, but they didn't really dive into it. People just kind of like just said, welcome back Superman, just acted like everything was normal again, like nothing had been different for like 5 years. It's kind of like with the Avengers when they had the snap, they at least acknowledged like, hey, things were very different during that time when people were gone. And when they came back, you know, society had to change again. Essentially,
they talk about the snap all the time in every single movie, TV show, everything. They're like the snap, the snap, the snap. This is how the snap affected things. They're just like, he's back. Yeah, that's it.
And I mean, of course, you know, that's like the MCU's much later on, so you know they had time to figure that sort of stuff out. So you know, to this film's credit, nothing like that had been done yet. But yeah, I do feel like this film could have done something more interesting with its plot, and it just treads the same water a little too much. But overall, I do think that it's a great film. It's not perfect, but I think that for what it's trying to do in terms of being a spiritual successor to the older movies, it does that great. I probably put it up, like, I put it behind the OG Superman movie. Like I say, I put like Superman 1, this one, then Superman 2, and everything else after it is how I would rank it. So yeah, I think it was great to see this movie again.
Okay. Rajhkeem, what you think?
I had a lot of feelings about this movie, but one thing I will concur with Terance was that, man, if you watch those OG films, it feels like you're almost right back at home, just a new fresh coat of paint. It's like like in video games right now, there's a big thing with remasters and how we talk about different remasters. And one big one was the Oblivion remaster, which it looked different, but the bones felt the same. It felt like they kind of so much the same. Like the way that Lex as a villain almost felt cartoonish in his delivery. Clark coming to Lois, and at this point they had been through a lot of stuff. Coming back to Lois with that boyish kind of like longing for her and her not giving him any attention and going after other guys. Now in this case, this is a little wild. I ain't gonna lie, this one was a little wild this time. Shout out to Richard. He did nothing wrong. In fact, he went above and beyond to me.
He was good.
You know, most movies when the new guy show up, he got to have a flaw, or he
they
like
usually make
jealous.
him a scumbag or something like that, or if he's not a scumbag, he becomes one because the old dude back. Well, none of that. He's just
saved Superman's life. Came out there on with an airplane in the ocean, trying to save people. That dude was just a good dude the whole movie. Didn't do nothing wrong. So the revelations that come across because of this is none of that. Is insane. Yeah, I will say in that retrospect, I do enjoy that the movie is faithful to the older movies. I watched the older movies as a kid, and I didn't really watch Returns when it came out. So this was a fresh perspective for me. So I didn't realize that it really was going to be that faithful. So that's why I was caught. Like for 2 seconds, I'm not gonna lie. When I saw Lex, I was like, they ain't the same dude. It can't be.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, he played man. If it wasn't for the wigs being a little different, man, I would thought it was the same dude. He played the hell out of that role, bro. I had my issues with the film. I think you guys kind of put on the head earlier. Pacing felt very slow at times. I did like the opening, especially the opening felt very slow. It was cool to see Clark return to Earth, but also like you mentioned how like it wasn't explained how it was what happened when he left. It wasn't explained what he did when he when he was gone. Like, it felt like that wasn't really explored as fully. I mean, of course, he went to a wreckage of a planet, so it wasn't a lot to talk about. Don't get me wrong.
That could have been a cool visual, though.
But I would have liked to see that and like
having him there, looking at the destroyed planet in space, and just kind of, even if it had just been him looking sad, like, damn, they really dead. I would have liked to have seen that.
That would have been a cooler opening than what we got. It was cool to see Lex find the Fortress of Solitude, although the Crystal Tech stuff, I'm not gonna lie, I sort of got it and I sort of didn't. I felt like it was a little convoluted how it worked. Am I wrong in that regard? I felt like that was a little weird.
It's doing a lot. It's like, I guess it's like, I just need this crystal and it'll grow here and there. And I'm like, huh?
That was a lot that took me out. I was like, the crystal stuff, I was like, I guess. The thing when Lois was on the plane and they had the spaceship detached off a commercial flight, I was like, why would you ever do that?
Why would you?
And then the movie go on to explain, you really shouldn't do this. This is exactly why you should.
I asked the same question.
There was a lot of moments in this film that made me like, that was dumb, and I don't like this. So that's kind of the moments that kind of took me out of it. I do like the fact that it's faithful to the older movie. So if you are like an old head Superman fan, if you've never seen this, it's a decent watch. You might feel like, whoa, this feels like home a little bit. Like this is a lot more comfortable of the Clark Kent and Lois Lane and Lex Luthor that I'm used to. One thing I will say, what is the actor's name who plays Superman again? I always get it.
Brandon Roth.
Is it Ruth? Brandon Roth.
I thought it was Ruth. I don't know. I saw the OU. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna split it down a minute and call him Roth, so we can all be wrong. One of us gonna be wrong. So Brandon Roth. When I saw his performance, I liked him. Whereas in the previous films, I felt like the actor was very good at capturing Clark and like the transformation of Clark when he was around people, like the body movements, to his demeanor and everything. I like Brandon as Superman. I felt like when he turned to Superman, he turned it on. Like he felt like a hero. Like it felt like, yo, this guy is that guy. And I felt like I liked his performance as Superman a little bit more than his performance as Clark in this regard. Whereas previously, I love the dude's conversion into Clark. You kind of physically saw it in his acting and how he performed it. And I didn't
get that one scene in, I think, Superman 2 or 1 where he like flies in and he like goes and straightens up and shows how he's Superman. And then all of a sudden he's like, nah, I ain't gonna reveal it. And he goes back to Clark. You like, huh, that's wild.
Yeah, like even in this film, when the boyfriend rings up, hey, how tall is Superman? 6'4"? How tall is Clark? Even he was kind of like,
I got that in my recap. That shit was crazy because he was like, how tall is Clark? And how much you say he weigh? And then Clark did that dorky ass wave, and it was like, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. Now there's also one thing I like in this film, definitely better than other films. I thought for once they had a good, tight Superman Lois flight sequence that I couldn't complain about. I was like, this is perfect. Oh, they finally nailed it. They got the right amount of romance and connectivity, and in the air, it didn't waste. They came right back down. Didn't waste no time. I was like, all right.
I agree.
I ain't mad at that. You know, they didn't go too much in that. They just spent too much time at the beginning of this film, and honestly, maybe at the end of this film too, in some regards. But yeah, overall, I thought it was okay. I didn't love this film as much. I thought it did a good job of like portraying how the old films felt to the audiences at that time, but it didn't bring a lot of new stuff to the table at all. Which I feel like in that era of the 2000s, people were kind of looking for something new. And, you know, super films was starting their evolution a little bit. They weren't all the way there yet, but they were kind of looking for a new take on those characters. I think it would have been more interesting to see a newer take on that Superman character, or at least a reboot instead of just like a continuation of the previous plot. But yeah, I just thought it was okay. I feel like if I rated it, maybe like a 7.5.
Where would you put it
was all right.
in relation to the other films?
I would say this. It's probably better than Superman 2, but Superman 2 is also a film I loved as a kid and have a special place for. So probably Superman 1, Superman 2, and this film, and then the last two can, fall off a cliff for all I care.
Fair enough. Devin, what about you? What'd you think of the film, bro?
It was actually a pretty solid watch. Like I said, I don't think I watched this when it first came out, but I do remember like from commercials that scene where he landed the plane on the baseball field. That's like the main thing I remember from that, like the marketing. You've all actually have like done like a really good way to compare this. It's like a remaster from, because when I started watching, I'm like, I immediately was like, this feels like those older movies just modernized. I mean, you start the movie off, you got Lex doing the shenanigans immediately before they even show Superman on screen. You got Lex out there, I take care of you. You know, it's like, bro, you can scam this old woman out of money. And they was like, he doesn't love you. Don't do it. She's like, no, I love him. I'm like, oh my gosh, bro.
How can I forget about that? That was ridiculous.
Like, as soon as the movie starts, they got Lex doing the shenanigans. Take the wig off. I'm like, yep, this is Superman. Just silly. That guy, like I said, the casting is great. I do think that Brandon, I don't know if I want to say I feel like he makes a better Superman than Henry Cavill, but they both pretty top tier. Like he looks the part, the acting, the mannerisms is pretty spot on. I think he makes for this movie, for what it was, he made a great modern Clark and Superman for this film. You know, going back to what the older ones were, I think he made a great one. First, before I go any further, I gotta shout out Lois, because apparently she's indestructible. Because at multiple times in this film, she should have been dead. Number one, her not having that mask on when they was going up into, about the breach atmosphere. I'm like, you're the only person didn't have a mask on. You would have been dead.
I mean,
or at least
let's not dive too deep into that, because really everybody on that plane should have been fucking dead.
I mean, that's true, but at least
that plane shouldn't have been able to take the stress of being in the atmosphere. They was being knocked and jostled around, and it ain't that much oxygen on them planes. They would have been fucking dead.
At the very least, though, they were strapped in and had theirs on. She was loose and out there, and she got knocked around multiple times. I'm like, all right, Lois, I guess you want for Superman, because you might low key be a Kryptonian yourself. But yeah, that was a stupid scene. When I saw it, I'm like, this got to be the scene when he lands the plane. I'm like, this is what this led from? You put a space shuttle on top of a plane. It's like, hey guys, we cooking with this one. We cooking. Like,
it immediately threw me out of it. That's what I saw. I was like, this is so dumb. Don't do this.
Hey, we shouldn't be doing this.
And I'm low key like,
they go bad. They're like, actually, we probably should have done this. Like,
I was low key like, you know what, y'all kind of deserve this. I mean, I can't really say much. Like, the things won't detach. I mean, well, hey, that's what you get for putting a space shuttle on top of a commercial flight. So, all right.
Would it just be a regular, like a special military flight, a private ship, or something like that? I'm like, what the fuck? Okay.
And then they got the nerve to have two fighter jets. Like, what they gonna do? Are they gonna like? What are they here for?
Blow the ship up.
Our secrets won't be revealed. Destroy them all.
And I was a little confused at first when they go to Superman's the house, and I'm like, wait, Because I'm just thinking, like, I wasn't thinking, okay, this is kind of a redoing or retelling of like the older movies. When he came up and he was growing, I'm like, dang, he grew up real fast on the way home, on the way down. I was like, he's supposed to be a baby. I'm like, oh, I see what they doing here. I was for 5 seconds, I was like, he's supposed to be a child. Why is he already a grown man? I'm like, oh, okay, he went to go. I was saying, I see. I was confused. I'm like, what? Okay, so my question is like, it's like, where did Clark go? And that's the question that everybody else should have been asking when he got back to the Daily Planet. It's like everybody was like, hey, welcome back.
Well, no. Well, the only person he talked about the trip with was Lois, and just like the old film, she don't give a damn about Clark. So I mean, you already know.
Yeah, I mean, because as soon as they mentioned Superman, she was like, Superman.
There's one criticism I have about both this film and the old films. Yeah. Like, one of the things, like, in the comics, one of the reasons they never wanted to marry Superman and Lois was because of the love triangle between Clark, Lois, and Superman. But I mean, in these films, ain't no damn love triangle. It's a line. Lois loves Superman. She don't give a damn about Clark. Couldn't care less about him. Like, every time Clark come up, she like, who? What? There's a part later in the film. We'll talk about it in a minute. Go ahead.
It's just like even Clark, when old dude told him, hey man, yeah, Lois, she doesn't settle down. He's like, you did what now? He got cracked up. He's like, oh, let me take that from you. Let me put this down real quick. Cause I don't like, and it's like
that picture.
You would have thought he'd have questioned like,
it.
It's like, why did that make you mad like that? Like, don't worry about it. Then he got a kid also, which later on, like, all right, Lois, you got some explaining to do to Richard, because
boy, 5 years, 5 years of thinking this kid should okay.
So I'm just thinking, like, you got some explaining to do, because they had already kind of hinted at it.
Even Lex was like, whose kid is that?
It's like, whose kid is this?
Richard's. You sure?
Yeah.
I was like,
so he saw how he's reacting to that kryptonite. Lex was like,
to the kryptonite, yeah.
2 plus
and then we got
2
that piano
4.
scene. That's just kind of cold.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, like, yeah, Lois, you got some explaining to do. And like you said, Richard was a cool guy, pilot, seemed like a decent dude, taking care of the son, everything. It's like, but like you say, it is the guy that she tell you not to worry about is Superman. So what you gonna do?
Lose.
Because even Superman, she went out there to take a smoke, and he kept blowing it out. He's like,
yeah,
those are bad for you. You shouldn't smoke those. He's like,
nice reference there.
It's like,
yeah, that's when you like, wait, what year is this film? It's like 2006, and she outside smoking, and I'm like, by 2006, what nobody really. If you was smoking, you was an addict by then. Like, you just couldn't give it up, because we all knew, like, yeah, leave that shit alone.
Yeah. And she was like, I got Richard now. And he's like, where you been? You've been gone so long. I got Richard now. He flies me too. He's like,
I can take that out. Yeah.
He's like, not like me though. I'm like, God, he's like, he might fly, but not like me though.
And then you notice they were already in the air when he said that. Like, oh my God, that was so smooth.
I was like, he's like, hey girl, he take on a plane, but I just come out here. We just go up in the sky, take you wherever you want to go. And that scene was a lot better this time. Of course, the technology has improved, so they didn't look as awkward with Lois as it did in the first time they tried this. And like Rajhkeem mentioned, they didn't take they didn't stay in the air for 2 days. So they kind of got to the point. They went back down. So that was a lot better this time around. That first one was like, all right, bro, this scene has lasted for at least 30 minutes. Let's stop this, okay? Again, Lex, he's just doing Lex things. Perfect for this movie, perfect for this film. Kitty was actually very good as well. The scene was funny when they went back to that house that lady died in, and she was like, wasn't there 2 of them? And the other dog just was, hey man,
eating bones.
Dog eat dog, literally.
That was actually
later.
That was actually pretty cool, because if you notice earlier, we're like licking on each other early. Like the dogs licking on each other.
Yep. I was like, there's something weird going on with these dogs here. Like, what's going on? And then Lois she goes on the boat. It's that hilarious scene where they show all of his wigs in one spot. I'm like, that's kind of funny. And it's almost like they had like an ominous sound when they turn. Just like, I'm like, it's the wigs of Lex. And he even mentioned like, yeah, I'm bald. He just take the wigs off. But yeah, this movie was solid for the most part. I like how villains and like the lackeys of villains, when they get the upper hand on like somebody they know they can't be, like, oh yeah, it's time now. When they got them down there and had the kryptonite, it was like, oh yeah, we tough now. Yeah, you would be tough like this if it wasn't no kryptonite. You know what I'm saying? But they stab, they kicking on them like, boy. It's like, hey man, we got you, man. Get a kick in. I'm gonna get a kick your face, kick your chest. I'm like, boy, they were. Go ahead,
I just want to know one question. How much White Castle that man promised Kumar to fight Superman like that, man?
All right.
So he said we stepping on all his jokes.
Every damn thing. Like, shit, what the hell's the point of the
My bad. Feels just in my head.
Let's go wrap this episode up, I
guess. Yeah. I'm telling you, hey, when they got that kryptonite on, it's like, hey man, we got you, bro. We gonna get 2 pieces of the biscuit off of you, Superman. But yeah, this movie was pretty solid. There were some, it wasn't quite perfect, but I think this was a pretty solid movie for the time. And like we said, what it was doing, basically just kind of rehashing some of the older stuff from those older films. I think it was pretty good in that regard. The casting was pretty good. The acting for the most part was pretty solid. I love the scene where the kids started playing the piano, and the other, for some reason, he took off his hat so weirdly with this tattoo on the back. I'm like, what is your problem?
He got Joker tat on the back of his head for some reason. I'm like, oh, okay.
And then he just starts playing piano, looking at Lois like, what's she over there doing? Like, and then gets demolished by a piano.
Everybody's. Where'd you rank this film, Devin?
So I think when I ranked the films, I think I put 3 first just because of the nonsense and the comedy of it. Because that part was just
You did.
So I'm gonna still put that one up at the beginning because it was just a lot of nonsense in that movie that made me laugh. 3, probably 1, this one, 2, and then 4. Because 4 was doing
garbage.
some things.
Yeah,
it was doing some things.
This film, like Terance said, it's weird parts of this film that that Superman just kind of exists in a vacuum, and there never really is anything that talks about the world around Superman. It's just what's happening to Superman, and that's it. So like Terance said, that you would think there would have been some gangs to rise up in Superman's absence, maybe some villains come up in there. No. The world just turns without him, and apparently they didn't need him. And it's almost like he's just a trouble magnet. Because as soon as he gets back, shit starts going wrong. It's like, okay. All right, I guess. In this movie, my big criticism of this film is that it's just too damn long. There's no way you can't have cut at least 40 minutes out of this film. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know where you cut it from, but some cuts here and there. You could have got this film down to 40 minutes, and it would have been a better film. Even if it wouldn't have been a perfect film, it would have certainly been a better film because it's just so long. The other complaint I have is that it's just, look, man, I don't care. I didn't need to see Lois cuck 2 dudes in the same movie. I just didn't need to see that. We could have done without it. There's a part, and I bring it up in the actual write-up that we'll get into in a minute, but like there's a part, excuse me, there's a part where it's just like, what the hell is going on? Where she's just like managing to get both Clark and Richard just feeling like trash. And it's just like, Lois is cool as a character, but like, damn, like why is this so messy? And like, it's not that I kind of would have liked the idea of her pretending like that was, her son, like not Superman's son or whatever. That could have been cool. Or even just being like, no, I don't want you near our son because you left for 5 years. That might've been cool. But I actually, if I remember correctly, that was like one of the biggest complaints from comic book fans. It was like, why is Superman a deadbeat dad? And I mean, valid question, to be honest with you. Like, that's not something that Superman should be doing. This film is a reminder that Warner Brothers just does not give a damn about DC at all. Like, they do what they want to do when they want to do it. Like, with Marvel, no matter whatever the era, they'll try to, and certainly with the MCU, they'll try to incorporate the comics as much as possible. Like, they'll be like, okay, well, what's going on in the comics right now? Like, there are a lot of things that happen in early Avengers that happen pretty much because of the Ultimate Comics, like the reboot that they had launched just a few years prior. And so like the Avengers up to a point kind of felt like the Ultimate Avengers from like the 2000s comics. And that makes a lot of sense because it's like, why pull away from, like, we've created this canon in the comics that people seem to like. Why pull away from it? Meanwhile, DC is making a sequel to a 1977 film. And there was so much they could have done with a new film and using literally any of the canon. Like, because by 1987, like a decade after this film, after the first film came out, they had completely rebooted the DC universe, completely rebuilt Superman from the ground up. Like, a lot of characters got to keep their history. Superman, they was like, nah, we resetting his whole history. We gonna reset his origin. We gonna redo all this stuff. And they could have used a lot of that stuff, which was more relatable and more down to earth, but still showing Superman to be Superman. And they were like, nope, toss all that shit. Let's just go back to whatever we was doing in 1977. And it's just like, man, there should have been someone around. There should have been a Kevin Feige to be like, don't do that. Like, you see what, like, because they had done multiple origins for Superman by the time this film came out. And it's like, you see those? Use one of those. Like, whether it's 1986's Man of Steel origin or I think Superman Birthright might have been a little too late. I think it's 2004. But I think the film might have started before that. Regardless, like, I would have had you using some of that. I'm not going to have you just use some canon from 1977 when Superman was a completely different dude and didn't have the connect. Because, like, one of the big changes the comics did that I feel like would have been better in these films is that in the comics, they made Superman way more connected to his human side and his human heritage. And that would have resonated a lot more with audiences in the 2000s than just having him continue to be like that pre-crisis Superman that's just above it all and disconnected from humanity and more like last survivor of this dead planet, which he still is, but like to make him just actually connected to humans versus being like above all the humans for the whole film. And so that was one thing that I'm like, dang, that's probably why this film probably wasn't the success that it should have been or that it could have been. I will say Brandon Routh, he's better at being like a warm and like caring Superman than Henry Cavill's, but that also feels like it might be down to Zack Snyder's direction. Zack wanted Superman to be even more detached, even more dour and serious and all that. And we didn't need it. But all in all, this is a really solid film. I was surprised because for so many years, people made Superman Returns sound like it was trash. I had never like seen too many people I had seen a lot of people say, oh man, this film is so bad and list all these reasons. And I never really understood. And now I'm watching and I'm like, I was waiting on it to get bad. And there's a part in the film that Devin brought up that is bad where I'm like, I could have done without this. But for the most part, this film's really good. I would place it behind Superman 1 because that's still the best Superman film to me. And then ahead of Superman 3, which I liked a lot. I liked enough of Superman 3 and some of the things they were doing. Like once you got away from the Richard Pryor stuff, I thought they were doing a lot of really cool comic book stuff. And the way that they effectively gave us the Lex that we know, as opposed to like mad scientist pre-crisis Lex, which is not something that any of us are familiar with because we weren't around when that was like common. So Superman 3 I liked a lot because it did a lot of stuff like that. So Superman 1, Superman Returns, Superman 3, Superman 2, and then 4 at the back because it's just fucking garbage. But yeah, I think I would probably give it a 7.5. Solid, like a really solid film. So let's just go ahead and get into the story, the plot, as it were. The film opens up with a long ass opening that I'm just gonna skip over because my God. But then it closes in and you get in like the part with the older woman. And she's giving the monologue, and she's like, yeah, I know you're a good man. And you said that if I helped you out of prison, you take care of me, and you have. And then there's like this implication that Lex was fucking the shit out this old woman. Yeah. She like said something about you satisfied me in ways I could have never known. And I'm like, damn, Lex really did put in the work for this money, I guess. And she gives this whole monologue about how great this person is that nobody else believed in but her, while her family's outside the door pounding on like, let us in. And it's kind of cold, like when you think about it, because like these are this woman's final moments, and she had a whole family that loved and cared about her. And Lex was like, you ain't gonna see none of them. The only person you're gonna see is me. And of course, the camera pans out, and she's like, "You deserve everything." And then we reveal the person she's talking to is, of course, Lex Luthor, played by. And I'll be honest, before I started watching this film, I had forgotten it was Kevin Spacey, someone else that was banished to the island of Harvey Weinstein for things that he shouldn't have been doing. She passes away, and Lex, there's this fucked up moment where as soon as she passes away, Lex takes off his like wedding ring or whatever and dumps it into a cup with her dentures. And I was like, oh man, that's fucked up. But also it's gross as hell. So he come out the room and the family's just all mad and they just glaring at him and he don't give a damn because he got all their money. And there's this funny moment of him looking at the family and he like takes off the wig, he's bald, he's like, hands the wig to the child, you keep that. The rest is mine.
Then he just start hollering for some reason. I'm like, it's just a toupee.
Yeah, I was like, why are you screaming? Like, it's just some hair. Like, you act like he handed you an arm or something. Like, what's going on? So you get to like, they go to the Kent farm and you see Ma Kent. She's trying to live a normal life again, trying to live life without basically her husband and her son who's been gone for years. And then finally she like notices some shit and her house starts shaking and she sees this comet come streaming down from the sky. And it's, supposed to be reminiscent of the first time she found her son as a baby. Only this time he's like an adult. And she goes over to the place and she happens to see him and he collapses into her arms while the ship is just a burning wreck by her place. And the first thing I thought was someone should have noticed this. Like someone should have been like the military or somebody should have been like, what is that? Why? Like,
that's a good question.
Like, why didn't nobody come see about this? But I mean, we just go skip over it. Credit to them, they go back to Lex's lab, which looks a lot like his lab did in Superman 1. Except now he's got a new girlfriend, Kitty Kowalski, played by Parker Posey, Miss Queen of the Indies. So yeah, there's no Eve, but we still have a woman he could talk down to and explain basic shit like the story of Prometheus. I'm like, all right, bro, like she didn't need to know that. Like she didn't need that explained. If you don't know it, you don't need to know it. He does show that even though Superman's been gone for years, he just can't let it go. She's like, you're not a god. And he's like, what's the line?
I don't want to be a god. I just want to be the one that delivers fire to the people.
Fire to the people.
Something like that.
Yeah. And I want my cut.
I want my cut.
Let you know he ain't changed at all. But the line I was thinking of was gods are selfish beings that fly around in little red capes. So just let you know.
Yeah.
I am not over it. Now, did anybody else have a problem with this next part where he breaks into Superman's Fortress of Solitude?
I had a lot of questions.
That bitch just open?
So that's my okay, see, that's another thing that I feel like they could have done better is the repercussions of Superman being gone for so long, him leaving something like that behind, I don't know. Also, Superman needs some guards for that thing because, I mean, if we count the OG movies, that thing's been broken into like quite a few times, right?
Yep. Well, I guess he had been there before, to be fair.
Yeah,
in the comics,
they
do different things. Like he's got the key that weighs as much as like he's got the giant key. I've seen that one that nobody can lift but him. Then he's got the miniature key that's like a regular size key, but it weighs. It's made of like super dense, super heavy material, so nobody can lift that but him. And then of course, like you've seen the new Superman movie or like the trailers for the new Superman movie. He's got the Superman robots, which would be like, "Hey, bro, get out."
Yeah.
But in this, there's none of that. So let's just come up in there, and of course, he's aware that this isn't Superman's home, but where he learned about Krypton. And it's interesting because we do get to see Lex learning some of the same lessons that Superman got in the first film when he spent like years just learning from Jor-El. We go back to the Kent farm and we see Clark Kent, Brandon Routh. Finally, he's a great fit for Clark, like everybody said. And he wakes up and he has like this little flashback scene where we see him first start to use his powers. It's the scene that Devin was talking about where he's like a kid and he's running around through the forest. And it's a funny scene where he can't stop himself when he's jumping and just ran smack into a weather vane. Just bam! It's like, oh God. Fortunately, this man got some invulnerability because he was messing himself up. But he like learned that he could fly. And then like finally we flash back forward and it's just like Clark as an adult. So yeah, if you like looked away for a bit, you'd be like, wait a minute, what happened? Why is this a kid and then a grown up? But I just want to know, man, why did he do that dog like that?
Bro, I forgot to mention that. That dog's like, bro, really? Really?
Oh, you talking about him throwing the ball?
Yes.
The dog's like, bro, do you think I'm crypto? I am not crypto.
Crypto in the other movie. Get away from me. Like, because the dog came up to him, wanted to play fetch, and Superman flung that bitch. I ain't say Clark, because that was Superman. Was just like, ow.
Hey, man, it's nice to see you back, man. I appreciate you play catch. Hey, come on, man, for old times. He's like, the dog's like, really? All right.
He finally gets to talk to Martha Kent, played by Eva Marie Saint, who was, I looked her up. I was like, man, this chick this woman has a list of credits a mile long. She was from like the golden age of Hollywood. I was like, holy crap. Good choice. And he was like, I went to Krypton, but he of course learns that he's all that's left. And again, Rajhkeem was right. It would have been cool if we had just seen that instead of him just saying that he did it, because I know it would have been, some CGI, but still, it would have been cool to just see him out in space looking at the wreckage of his planet. Because, of course, by now, it's been gone for, like Jor-El said, thousands of years. But Martha does give him some hope. She's like, the universe is huge. You don't know what's out there. It might be some of your people out there. And it's a reminder that at the time, this was supposed to be the start of a DC universe, like a DC cinematic universe. You had Batman Begins in 2005, the year prior, and then Superman was supposed to be next, and then they wanted to do a Wonder Woman film in 2007, and all of that was supposed to lead to like a Justice League film in either 2008 or 2009, but like a whole bunch of stuff happened with the scripts, and then like the writer's strike, and then all that stuff just got derailed.
I was thinking, the writer's strike probably derailed the hell out of that.
That plus Superman Returns not being the best, so once you get all of that together, it's just like, all right, well, throw it out. And then, of course, we started fresh 7 years later with Man of Steel, and that didn't work. But he got to move on, so he tries to get a job at the planet, and he's able to come back because somebody happened to die, because he was like thanking Perry White. He's like, yeah, man, thanks for giving my job back. He's like, don't thank me, thank old dude that died. And I'm like, did you kill him? Like, this is just oddly timed. Like, you just somebody died and now you can get your job back. Like, what's going on? And then like Jimmy Olsen, he's all happy to see him. And like I said earlier, Jimmy just hasn't grown as a character at all. He's just the same kid that he was in the last, which it's like, it's been 5 years. Like, you should have grown out of a lot of that, but whatever. He also made a cake for Clark. I don't know when he made that cake, but it looked terrible. It was a part where Clark is like, it looks, and then Jimmy's like, what does it look like, Clark? Looks great. I'm like, no, bro, it looked like trash. Throw it out. Superman, he's like looking for Lois, and really quickly learns he's not gonna like her when he finds her, because she's built her name now off of a piece that won a Pulitzer, Why the World Doesn't Need Superman. And I'm like, whoa, shit. She is upset. And not only that, but she's got, like we said, like she's in a relationship with a kid. And there's that hilarious moment where Jimmy just sneaks up behind him like, oh, yeah, she got a kid and she married now. Clark, like y'all said, man, about snapped. Crack that plate. I mean, that photo. I was like, oh, no. And Jimmy was just, let me just go ahead and take that from you there and put that over. It was a great moment. Of course, now Lex, after he learned everything, he's more annoying than ever because he's got even more knowledge that he can explain to others. He does quote Clark's third law here, which I thought was cool. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. It's a nice little sci-fi idea. He stole one of the crystals, which Superman, you think that would have been the first thing that he checked on after he saw okay, checked on my mom. I got a job. All right, I should probably go to the fortress, make sure everything cool. But no, he was just like, I don't care. I think he goes to the fortress like an hour in, so we're a long way from that. So Lex tries to grow a crystal. He's stolen the crystal from the fortress, and he's like, I'm going to use this to grow some shit. And while he's trying to manipulate the crystal, he like knocks out power across the East Coast, which already I'm like, how the fuck? And it's just from like a sliver of the crystal, not even like a full crystal, just like a sliver of it. And it just knocks out power through like an EMP blast. Because at first I was like, how'd you knock out all this power? And then they were like, oh, it's an electromagnetic pulse. Because he knocked out the aircraft. And I was like, that don't make sense. But EMP, I guess, would do that. There's a cool moment there where the crystal wrecks that model city which is like almost like a precursor to what happens later in the film when like the crystal actually destroys like parts of Metropolis. It's almost like saying, "Hey, you should leave this tech alone, stupid."
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like Rajhkeem said, everything has gone wrong with this stupid spaceship flight. Who thought of that? Who was like, "Hey man, you know this is probably fine. Like we could take this commercial." And why a commercial flight? Okay, if you want to, and then you like, okay, well it's already in the air and it can jet off and it could be even faster. Like, okay, cool, but why does it have to be a commercial flight that does this? Like I'm so confused.
Yeah, well, I see rocket ships. They have like the part that casts off. They put it in the air and it just falls down back into the surface.
Right.
And I was thinking, like, do you want a commercial flight to do that? That doesn't make any sense.
And I feel like this should be something that's more like contained. Why were there so many people on this plane? That should just been like the pilots and maybe some other experts,
some
there.
NASA, some scientists,
But you got like 20 people on this plane. Like, okay.
Shout out to Lois Lane. She always finds herself in the most ridiculously dangerous situation possible. I will say that. She gonna find herself into some dangerous stuff, and she gonna have a story to tell. Also, another question
for the story.
Also, another question. Going back to the crystal thing. So when he put the crystal in the water, the train set, the stuff gained sentience because they were like screaming and shit. Was that what was going on? Like the toys and the
toys.
I feel like I know what you're talking about, but I feel like that was
just for like effect.
I feel like that was either for effect or I remember it overlapping with something. I'd have to go back to that specific scene and watch it again.
Okay.
But I think that may have been there for effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, bro, this is wild if this is what this is doing. Like, it gives inanimate objects sentience? That's ridiculous.
That would have been a little too much. I ain't gonna lie. It's a little weird because Lois was on board, like y'all said, and asking like a billion questions and just making life miserable for that PR woman. Even though she does save the PR woman's life later on. So like they're trying to detach the spaceship, even though the boosters are, they can't get the boosters to detach. And I'm like, well, yeah, like y'all said, like that's why you shouldn't have used the commercial flight for this. Y'all was dumb. Everything's going wrong. Ship moving at Mach 1, even though there's no chance that the commercial flight is designed to go Mach 1. So it's like,
no
all
way,
right, bro. Exactly. Like there are specific ships. There's specific air flights that are designed for that, like red eyes and like the Mach like supersonic jets, but like they wasn't on that. They was on a regular flight. So this was just bad all the way down. By the way, as far as this movie being too fucking long, we're 35 minutes into the movie before there's even a situation that needs Superman.
Yep.
I liked how they built to it, everything going wrong and they let it get as bad as it could possibly get before he showed up. But it just shouldn't have taken 35 minutes to get to like Superman first making an appearance. That was crazy. But yeah, just as things are looking their worst, like y'all said, Lois was running out of oxygen and really should have been dead. And she's like unable to reach her oxygen machine, and Superman shows up, and I'm like, still though, the human brain can only be without oxygen for so long before it's like, yeah, you cooked. So I don't know what it was doing. They was just playing around. He gets the spaceship away from the plane, and then they save the plane. Then he saves the plane in the atmosphere, and it's like while it's burning up. So I don't know if anybody's seen this on Twitter, but there is a scene in the new Superman trailer where Superman grabs this woman for being stomped on by like a giant monster. And there's some people online like, there's no way that Superman will be able to save a woman if he grabbed her at that speed. She'd just be dead, which it's a movie. So why are you complaining about that?
For real.
But also, when I tell you everybody aboard that plane would have been fucking dead. Because he caught it by like the nose of the plane. I said,
yeah.
No, the fuck. Remember, it was even like the impact of him coming down where it like caused a ripple through the plane. Yeah.
Go ahead, Keem.
You remember that The Boys did a parody of that specific scene in the show? Like, hey man, can't you just grab it? Like, no, that's not how that works.
That's not how that works. Oh my God. Now I mean, like, I don't have a problem with that scene in this movie. It just makes you think like people are like, oh, the new Superman movie is a cartoon. Like, that's all superhero movies. That's just how superhero movies work.
I think people try sometimes to insert too much logic into something that has no logic. It's like we're dealing with superpowered human beings at the end of the day. Come on, right. Suspend your disbelief.
It's not a Sherlock Holmes movie. We gotta use evidence and
Well, part of this is, the Snyder Bros, they just won't let it go. So anything the new Superman movie does, anytime they can try to find a hole, they're like, oh, look at this. This is such a cartoon. He couldn't do this. And like, man, he can't do none of that because he's not real. So don't worry about it. But yeah, I just thought it was funny to see like him like try to catch this plane in the silliest way possible. But he does save everybody. He walks on board, checks on everybody, and there's this funny moment where he's like, I hope this experience hasn't put any of you off of flying.
Like, technically, it's the safest form of travel. Yeah. That's how they always try to get you up. Like, planes can be falling out of the sky. They'd be like, still technically, it's the safest form of travel.
You can only get there so many times before it's no longer the safest form to travel.
That's fair.
But then there's like this cool moment, like he like meets eyes with Lois for the first time, and everybody's like, "What's going on with you and Lois? Like, what's happening here?" Because everybody just looks back at Lois. And then finally he just like leaves, he just heads out. And then everybody applauds him and Lois like passes out. And you get back to the Daily Planet, and Perry actually makes a pretty good case for why literally every department of the paper should be writing about Superman. Like he's like, the lifestyle, you should do this, and business, you should do this, and y'all should do this, and like everybody. And he even sneaks the name of the film in. So it's like Superman Returns is like a headline. So he set the thing. Of course, Lois nails the real story. Why was there an EMP that caused the plane to crash in the first place? Like, smart of her. But during the conversation, I think there's a part where like Perry calls Lois off because Lois is clearly trying to cover the blackout. He's like, no, we're all covering Superman. And then like Superman is like Clark's trying to listen in on the conversation before he gets confronted by Jason, Lois's kid. And they make this kid look like the dorkiest fucking kid possible because he says hi, and the second thing he does is the inhale. Like, good God.
He's a frail boy.
What a fucking dweeb. Yeah, he's a frail boy.
He's his father's son.
Yeah, about that. He also takes every medicine possible because they listed off like 7 different pills that he was taking. I'm like, bro, this kid is going through it.
Trying to deal with what Lois was doing, man. Told you to stop.
They
did got asthma.
She didn't give a damn. She's not giving up the spokes. There's a awkward moment here where Lois and Clark meet for the first time again, and there's like this weird shared kiss where they can't figure out which cheek to kiss each other on, and Lois just looking like a fucking goober in front of Lois, and then Clark just looking like a goober in front of Lois and like her fiance who shows up, Richard, played by James Marsden. One thing I'll say, like I said it before, I'll say it again, this movie is nailed. Lois does not give a shit about Clark. She didn't in the old movies, and she don't in this movie. Because Richard was like, oh, hey, I heard a lot about you. Yeah, from Jimmy. Damn.
That was funny.
He was about to get excited. He was like, oh, yeah, Lois been talking about me? Hell no. Hell no. Jimmy can't stop talking about you. That's the only person, the only friends you got here. Everybody else, nobody gave a damn about you before. Nobody cares now. She is interested in Superman, which is why she complains like later on when Lois and Clark are like down there and she's trying to get a cab. She's like, why did I never get a goodbye? And I mean, like, fair. Like, he could have at least said bye. There's this really creepy moment not too long after this where Clark is like looking in on Lois and Richard's family life, and I was like, ew.
That was a little weird. It makes sense for how his character works, but outside looking in, this is illegal.
Incredibly. Like, okay, like a lot of Superman's powers, like the way he uses them, I'm like, you can't actually do this. But like usually it's in service of stopping a crime. This was just him being like, I can't let go. And it reminds you of how terrifying he could be as like an ex-boyfriend. And like,
oh my God,
while he's looking in on them, Richard is asking about Lois's relationship with Superman, and he's super insecure. And my first thought was, man, she managed to cuck 2 dudes in one day. Like, that's impressive. But also for a movie that's 154 minutes long, you could have cut this whole scene and it would have been a better film for it. We didn't need any of that. First bit of real action in the film comes with a few goons trying to commit a crime. Because like Lex basically has this master plan, and part of the master plan is distracting Superman as much as possible. So one of the crimes that he puts a bunch of crimes across the city. One of them is like a couple of goons, and then they wind up firing on the cops with a giant fucking machine gun.
That was crazy.
That shit was wild. I said, "Oh shit, this is insane." And then like Superman really should have been there ages ago, but he was too busy spying on a married couple with a kid. So priorities, I guess. You got
for the Finals, basically his first day back on the job full time. He had to get
what that was.
They even did the montage sort of. He went through just solving a whole bunch of crimes.
Some of them were like Lex's, but most of them were just like random shit happening across the world. But yeah, this one was definitely Lex's. He arrives in time, just in time to stop the dude from pulling the gun on like these cops. And I hate when people act like they don't know how bulletproof vests work, because they lit that dude up from the back, and he was just like, "All right, I got the vest on."
I thought he was supervillain for a minute. I was like, "Bro, that's not how that works."
Wait, what?
Yeah, he just shrugged all them bullets off. I was like, "You sure? Like, vests don't work like that."
You
like,
still feel the impact of it.
Yes.
You know what's funny about this scene? I actually just saw Tony Baker do a Instagram post on this scene, which is wild. That we like this week, and it was the scene. Yes, the machine gun scene, and he was like, "Okay, you got like a full on machine gun, okay?" And Superman just taking it to the chest, and he was like, "So you saw him take a full machine gun on, then he gets up close to you like, well, this handgun is gonna work." He was like,
your chest may be bulletproof, but your head ain't.
Like, he literally made a post about this scene. It's wild, because I'm like, yeah, why would you think? Oh, see, now I got you where I want you. It just bounced off his eyeballs. Like, what?
That was a cold scene, though.
I was gonna say, this was one of the more iconic shots from the film, was the bullet hitting the eyeball and it bouncing off. Like, I do remember that from the trailer, and that being like one of the dopest scenes. And seeing it again, it still is really good.
That was my plan all along, for you to absorb all those bullets from the machine gun so I could shoot you up close.
I mean, maybe nobody ever tried it before. I don't know.
Yeah, Rat-a-tat-tat thought he had a good plan.
He sure did. It was a lot. Like, he shot the dude in the eye. It bounced off, and I was like, "That's a great time to beg for forgiveness." Like right there, like
it really was.
Just drop the gun and be like, "Please don't hurt me. I'm sorry. Look, I didn't realize you was that guy like that." So while Lex is busy working on stealing the kryptonite, Superman is still, like y'all said, going all over the city saving people. He saves Kitty, and we get the classic Action Comics #1 shot with the first film, like with the car where he's picking up the car and shit. And then Kitty gets out.
Oh yeah.
Kitty gets out, and she's immediately like, "I need to go to the hospital. I need this. I need that. This and the third." And so he like flies her to the hospital, and then she's like immediately okay. And I ain't gonna lie, I thought she was gonna like change her mind for being around Clark, but no, she was still trash. I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess I was wrong." They skip ahead. There's a part with like Lois, Jimmy, and Clark in a meeting with Perry, and Perry's like, "Look, Lois, you got to get on this goddamn Superman story." And she was like, "I've done Superman before," and they all just like, this is a really mid-2000s moment. You'd never do that today, where they just kind of looked at her like, "Oh, you've done Superman, huh?" It's like, all right, man.
I mean,
to be fair, even they referenced the whole one night with Superman thing, so
Yeah. There is a funny moment after that where Richard is talking to Lois, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sure you can find a way to interview Superman without bringing Superman back into your life." And then like they cut on the TV, and the news reporter's like, "Great news, Superman is back in all of our lives." And I was like,
that was funny.
Yeah, you thought you could get away from him. Also, Lois is very clearly still in love, because like they caught the photo of like Superman holding Kitty in his arms, and she just called Kitty a hooker. No reason at all. She was just like a hook. I'm like,
you don't even know this woman.
Exactly. And real. Kitty was dressed like somebody straight out of Turner Classic Movies. I'm like, what do you mean? Go ahead, Terance.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you were gonna bring this up, but in the museum scene when Lex was getting the kryptonite, one thing that was a really cool Easter egg was, if you look at the little panel for the museum item for the kryptonite, it had the date of 1978. I thought that was.
Oh, I did not catch that.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was obviously the first Superman film, 1978. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, this is definitely a movie, made back in 2006 because Lois, of course, smoked in the 78 film, but like smoking here, it just feels weird because like by this point, nobody was smoking. Still, Superman, he's trying to get some attention from Lois, so he volunteers for an interview. There is great chemistry between the two of them, though. You can feel Lois's pain and having been left behind, even though it's hard to see Superman's side of things because he just dipped. He was like, all right, I'll holler at you. I'll be back when I be back. Especially when he's trying to take a man's fiance, and like y'all said, Richard is a good dude. Like he hadn't done anything bad or he hadn't done nothing wrong. He's just a decent guy. And Superman, like, I don't care nothing about none of that. And like Devin said, there's this weirdly sexual line where Lois is like, Richard, he's a pilot. He takes me up all the time. And Superman, not like this. I say he about to send you to the real Maha Club.
Oh Lord.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, I mean, like y'all said, the tour of Metropolis is great. By now, she should be used to getting that tour, but it's cool to see it in like 2000s CGI. And at least we don't have to hear that awful as fuck poem that was driving me up a wall that came back, I think, 2 or 3 times. And I was like, it was bad. It was the first time. And every time after that, it just got more and more cringy. Get that shit out of here. He brings her back after a few minutes, and cleverly, I don't know how he pulled it off, but Clark's been back for a while, and so like Lois comes down, and her fiance just looks at him like, "Where have you been?" And you think for a second that like he knows that she's been with Superman, but instead he's like, "Have you been smoking?"
She did go out there to smoke at first.
She did go out there to smoke, but of course, Superman stopped her from smoking, so technically she wasn't lying when she said no. So it's at this point in the film, an hour and something in, where Superman finally realizes somebody's been in the fortress, and he's of course not happy about it. And I'm like, okay, man, you should have been checked on this. So this is your fault. Meanwhile, Lois is getting ready to go to the party to celebrate her winning a Pulitzer, but instead of doing that, she's like following up on this story about like the blackout and everything around it. And she winds up taking her son along with her to commit crimes, which is, I mean, I guess something cool. Like, I don't know that I would have took my son. I would have said like, hey, you take the son. I got to do some whatever. I don't know.
It all would have worked out. Be in school or something.
I mean, I guess we don't know when the film came out. It could be in like the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to be fair, it just feels like he's always with them throughout the film, which I mean makes it convenient for plot reasons.
Some of the stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would have been fine, like her committing these, because he's like, "Are we like trespassing or whatever?" She's like, "No." Yes. It's like, all right. Everything would have been fine except she winds up on Lex Luthor's evil yacht, just as it sets off, and like like. I forget which way y'all said it, but like, look, I think Devin, she like looked around, saw like the toupees, and then like the evil cord hit. It's like, fuck, we got to get out of here. It's like, all right. But Lex catches him while he's brushing his teeth. There's a great little funny moment here where he like looks at Jason, and Jason looks back at Lex, and Jason's just like, "You're bald." Feel like a moment out of modern AEW, like he was talking to Ricochet. A little bit. So Lex and Lois get to have a conversation here, and there's some great lines exchanged. One of them is like, "Didn't you win a Pulitzer for like my favorite article ever? Why the world doesn't need Superman?" And then an even better line, like right after that, where he's like, "It's cool that Superman catches the bad guys, but he can't do any of the legal things like reading Miranda rights or like making court dates." And I was like, "Yep, this is your fault, Superman. So you dumb for this." Then Lex finally explains his big plan. Reminded me of my folks from back in the day, because he was like, "Yeah, they make everything else. They ain't making no new land." And so like he was like, "I'm just building some new land." And he's gonna sink America to create this new land, wiping out billions of lives, which then raised the question, who the fuck's gonna buy any of this land? Like, what?
That's a good question. Make America wet again.
I was like, what? Like, what's going on, bro? Who's gonna buy all this shit? Like, you've killed billions of people. Like, this was back when it was maybe 6 billion people. And you're going to wipe out some of the ones that had the most money by killing all the Americans. So good luck with that.
I feel like everybody would turn on you.
Definitely.
Yeah, probably.
The key point to this scene, though, is when she tells Lex, like, Superman won't let him get away with it. And you get, like, the meme of wrong. That part. And then there's the other part.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah. And then there's the other part where he pulls out the kryptonite. And then Lex notices the weird look in Jason's eye when he gets close to it. And Lex very quickly puts 2 and 2 together. It's like, it's that boy's father. Lois is just like, Richards? And like he gets the phone call and they're like explaining like we're at the right spot, this, that, and the third. And he's just like, you sure? Like, I tell you what, go ahead and we'll talk about this later. So of course Lex's plan is to like encase the crystal in kryptonite so Superman can't do anything about it once it starts growing. And Lois does come out. Like, this is another scene that I felt like was kind of long, but it did make sense for the film, where they're like playing the piano together, and it's just like the kid and the fucking goon, and they're playing the piano and shit. And then like Lois comes up with the plan to give her location via like a conveniently placed fax machine. And I don't know if anybody else caught this, but if you're watching this movie, if you were to go back as a teenager and watch this movie, you would have no idea what the fuck that is.
Wow.
Because like nobody uses fax now. Everybody just sends emails.
Yeah.
Well, there are some antiquated places that do use fax, but like by and large, like who the fuck has fax machines now? So
yeah, it's the most popular way to transport information in business. And then one day somebody was like, just send it on an email as an attachment, and then that was it.
And then that shit went away. So this plan unfortunately doesn't work that well, partially because of another EMP, but also because Lex's goon, to his credit, was paying attention. And so he like caught her as she was trying to do that shit and was like, all right, well, that's it. It's time to wipe you out. And that's when Jason finally reveals who Sonny really is, because he like shoves the whole piano at the guy.
Bro, I was like, yo, this is wild. He killed that dude too.
Yeah, that dude's fucking dead.
Mm-hmm.
Which means he has one more body on him than Clark does, because Clark doesn't kill in this universe.
Crazy.
So Lex, he gets his crystal into the water and everything starts to fall apart. And Superman's out there having to fix everything while Jason like finally gets the fax and he's like, I'm going to go save my kid. And I was like, dang, this dude really is just a solid guy. Like, I mean, he out here doing some heroics and whatnot. Great moments of Superman finding ways to use his powers to save the city. But I mean, like, even with all his powers, like the city, everything's fucked because like you can't just raise up a new continent and like not without causing incredible sea changes and all kinds of other problems. Still, Richard, it's surprising because like they locked Lois and Jason up in like another place, like a tinier room. And then like, Jason, like Lois tries to talk him into opening the door, but like he doesn't think that he can because he doesn't know who Sonny is yet. So Richard manages to come and be the one to save the two of them. And they get to have a happy reunion for like 3 seconds before the crystal starts destroying the yacht. And it's like some really cool destruction here that feels like something out of a 2000s disaster film. Did anybody else pick that up?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Should just look like 2012 or what's the one with the volcano?
Volcano.
I'm not familiar with the one with the volcano, but I do know what you're talking about. Like there was
one Geostorm, I think.
There was a period during that time where there was a lot of like climate change disaster movies. So I mean, I know. What
Are you talking a movie where like the grandma walks through the lava to save her family at one point and like dies?
Well, she should have, because ain't no
way
she
died
around lava.
I would say if she did that, then she definitely.
Well, she had to push them in the whatever container boat thing they were in. She had to put her feet in the lava, and she died, but to save them. I think that's the movie you're talking about. I remember that movie was ridiculous.
Could be, because I remember seeing that one, because that's like wild, because that's not how lava works. You actually can't get that close to lava. Never mind.
We know.
They be doing whatever in these films. You see the sub like filling with water, and they're desperately trying to make it out. There's like this whole scene is really cool. And they almost get out, but like the door slams shut at the last moment, and they're like about to drown, and Superman shows up just in time to save them. Pulls the yacht out of the ocean, which again, not how that works, but whatever. He gets them out. they get back to Richard's ship, and you know he's pretty decent to Jason. I mean to Richard, all things considered. There's not like any tension or anything. Like it's not Superman and Richard don't really dislike each other openly, which was really important because if they had, it would have made this film even more awkward. Then we get to the scene that I actually don't like, where Superman finally gets to confront Lex, and it's like the first time they've seen each other this entire fucking movie. And at this point, we're about an hour and 52 minutes in. So it took an hour and 52 minutes for the superhero and the supervillain to confront each other.
That's way too long.
But not to worry, we still got another like 40 minutes to go. So I guess there's plenty of time. There's the visual of like Lex's new country is great because it's all barren and fucked up, like his soul. Sorry, I had to do that. But Superman is basically like, hey man, give me this shit back. And Lex has thought ahead because of course he's got the kryptonite already next to him, and so he's able to kick Superman around. And like this to me was the one really bad part of the film, because while it's fine to have Lex talk all this shit, the real problem is that there are three guys who might have names, but I sure as fuck don't care what they are. And then they beat the shit out of Superman. And I cannot tell you how lame that shit was. Like, he was getting his ass beat by Harold Kumar. Like, I know that the guy has a name, but I refuse to fucking look it up because he's Cowpen / Harold Kumar to me. And Kumar cannot be beating Superman's ass, kryptonite or no kryptonite. What the fuck was going on?
Especially without White Castle. That's absurd.
Yeah, he didn't have his spinach, his White Castle spinach or nothing. Like, what's going on? But yeah, they beat the brakes off that man. Anybody see, like, did I mishear it, or did Clark say, I'm still Superman, as he was getting his ass beat?
It sounded like you were just saying,
I thought you were just saying, I'm getting my ass beat. I'm like, how many months Superman I get home like this?
Save me.
I'd have to rewatch the scene, to be honest. I can't say without doubt.
Yeah, I had to rewatch that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I had the captions on, and it said I'm still Superman, so maybe that helped me hear it. But like, man, I was like, why are you saying that? You getting the fuck beat out of you, man. Like this, it's not impressive. Like you saying I'm still
take
Superman.
A page out of Bruce's book, man. I'm Batman. I'm Superman.
Which they jumped that man like JoJo Part 5.
You said what?
Like JoJo Part 5, where the dudes are jumping up and the dudes looks around, he starts jumping too. Oh man.
Which begs the question is like, why wouldn't you all just finish the job? Like, why would you kick him over into the sea? Just why don't you make sure, like they did the whole old school bad guy thing of like, oh yeah, I'm sure the hero's dead. I'm just going to leave him abandoned there while I go do something else instead of just making sure the job is done.
And, you know, this reminds me of the thing that I dislike the most about Superman 2. Remember when he, like, gave up his powers for some reason because he wanted to live a life with Lois and then, like, went down, like, they left the Fortress of Solitude, which we never did figure out how they pulled that off because they was in Antarctica. And then they went to, like, this random gas station where there was this, like, big trucker dude that was just being an asshole. And, like, Clark tried to stand up to the trucker and just got bitched. And it's like, so after that, you didn't learn how to fight. You didn't like try to figure out like nothing. You was just like, I get my powers back, and then everything will be good from then on. Like, okay, but what about kryptonite? Because you know about kryptonite. Like, why don't you have some sort of backup plan in case you get around kryptonite again? So it's just, I don't know. Like the comics have done better about that.
They kind of make it where Superman is just, he's only super with his powers. Like you take that away, he's just he's less than just some guy, apparently.
Yeah. For some reason.
He really is Clark. But Clark Kent should be like some big buff farm dude. So like that shouldn't have been like there's no reason for him to be getting hoed like how he's been getting hoed anytime he ain't got his powers. I don't get it.
I guess throwing haystacks don't make you a fighter.
That you ought to have that old country boy strength. I would think.
Throwing haystacks, not haymakers.
Bruh. Oh,
I just feel like the Fortress of Solitude should have like an inherent security system. I feel like if you're not a Kryptonian, you shouldn't even be able to like use the stuff or nothing should react.
That I agree.
I guess you could argue that because it's in Antarctica, nobody really realistically should be there to begin with, but still, it's like it happened before. Precautions should be taken from here on
Agreed.
out.
Agreed. Yeah. Like, there's so many things where it's just like, why didn't you plan ahead for this? And I know you're not Batman, but like some stuff you shouldn't have to be Batman to plan ahead for. Like, you should just know, fair. Like, okay,
he
this happened
beat
before.
Up. He probably wish he was Batman. Man, I wish I was Batman right now. Oh,
that's why I said, I was like, why you learn hands? Like, and he like that shit wasn't impressed. Like, he was just getting hoed. There was no cool. Like, at no point in that moment did he look cool or do anything cool. It was just him getting beaten up. I'm like, all right. See, I really hated that part of the film. Like, I kind of docked it a little bit just because of that scene. Anyway, Lois convinces Richard to turn the ship around so they can go back, which is, just in time because Superman got the kryptonite shiv. He just got shanked. It's like, get in the water, and shoved him in the water where he was supposed to drown, but obviously he didn't. Like Terance said, Lex should have just finished the job. But Lois saves Superman, and Richard saves them both, allowing them to get into the air. And there's this really cool moment where Richard is like trying to get the ship flying because nobody else can save him. And it's almost like he's the hero of a completely different film. Like, it would be a disaster film, but still, like, he was like the hero of a different film. And so, because he like gets him into the air to save them all, and I'm like, dang, without this dude, it wouldn't have been no saving the planet. But
that's
Lois,
why he's
like,
the hero of the Sonic films.
Fair. This reminds me, I gotta go see those films.
Hey, by the way, wasn't Richard the actor who played Cyclops in the X-Men films? Or I ain't correct?
He does. He might.
Are you talking about the OG Bryan Singer?
The old X-Men films.
You might be right.
I think so, actually.
I think
I was looking. I'm like,
yes, that's him.
I was like, man, now he used to getting cut.
Which is weird because, like, in the comics, like, he was never like, it was always like Wolverine kept trying to hit, and then it just never quite worked out. That's again another case of like Jean trying to cuck two dudes, or some woman trying to cuck two dudes at the same time. And I guess Jason Marsden, he should just be used to that now. Like, hey man, you just got to stop dating these women that are just that much smarter than you.
He better start looking at their hedgehog differently.
Oh my God.
Look, man, he actually has a wife in those movies.
He got a wife in those movies.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
Okay.
I'm joking.
Well, I had to think about it. I was like, wait a minute, hold on, because I forgot. I was like,
his wife fine too. Yeah.
See? So he got a dub. So yeah, there's this moment, like Superman, like after he recovers, because like Lois pulls the shiv out. He's like, all right, I gotta go fix this. But not before, going into the sky, bathing himself in sunlight like Birdman. And he like flies back. It's like a cool scene though. And he flies back down, uses heat vision. I don't like how they use his heat vision. It's like almost too.
You can barely see it.
Yeah. I was like, man, it needs to look like it's something, especially since the way he used it was to like punch down into the earth and like effectively use the heat vision to carve out part of the earth underneath the crystal so that he could like lift that shit out. So I don't know. I feel like they could have made that shit look cooler. Kitty is like the classic stereotype of like a chick who wants a bad boy but doesn't realize how bad the bad boy is, because she's just sitting there and on top of the crystal, or like on top of like Lex's new land or whatever, and she's like, are billions of people really gonna die? And Lex just deadpan like, yeah. Why, you thought I was lying? I lie a lot. I wasn't lying about my evil. They about to die. So but fortunately Superman is like literally choosing to get rid of this place by lifting it out of the ground. And for the sins of beating up Superman, Kumar and the rest of them boys had to go because they got crushed by that crystal, by one of like the crystals falling. Just
that was so anticlimactic.
Told you. It's like, man, you didn't get the justice or nothing. It's like, well, this will fix it. And I guess he was gonna kill all of them because he didn't give it to like, they got off the island, but it wasn't like Superman cared how they got off. He was just like, hey man, whatever happens. I'm finna take this out into space. So figure it out. Lex and Kitty do make it out, but not without Kitty tossing the crystals. I feel like we missed a moment for Lex to show how villainous he could be, because I was kind of surprised he didn't just toss her out the chopper. Like, you threw because all she did was just throw him out there, and she started crying and saying, I'm sorry. And I was like, I'm surprised Lex wasn't like, yeah, you can be sorry. Be sorry with them crystals. Her and the dog, but she did do something nice, I guess, so that's why she lived. But to me, it was like way too late. Like, you took too long to like help out. But Superman lifts the entire island up, which is like a cool plan. But like the kryptonite just kept growing through the earth, so he started losing his strength just as he got it into orbit. Anybody else realize how dangerous that could have been?
Yeah, what if he just like fell? In fact, that's why I thought like that crystal, those kryptonite crystals are huge. Like you should just be weak and just fall, and it would just hit the. Oh my god, if it hit the ground, man.
Like realistically, he probably shouldn't have been able to even take it up as high as he did, because if like a little rock next to him weakens him, then like a whole, like essentially like meteor of kryptonite is like no, that shouldn't have happened.
Like the rule of inverse ninja. Like, like if there's one ninja, he's like unstoppable. But if there's hundreds, like a kid can beat him up. If it's like one little piece of kryptonite, Superman just about dead. But if it's like a whole hunk of it, he like, I'm a little weaker than normal, but I'll be all right. Like, okay, sure.
All right.
So yeah, he like takes it out into space. You realize how dangerous, like Keem said, how dangerous the rock would be if it crashed back down to Earth. Like beyond billions, that would have been an extinction level event. But Superman passes out just after getting it to float off. So he falls back into the atmosphere. He doesn't wake up this time, which leads to the doctors finding him and bringing him in and trying to operate on him. And they remove like a sliver of kryptonite, but they can't do nothing else for him because, I mean, unbreakable skin. We get a bit at because like now we're done with all the action, of which there is none. That's probably the biggest complaint about this film. Like there's really not any action. Like Superman never, like that was the one big complaint I remember people had back in the day. Like Superman never throws a punch this whole film.
That's what I remember about this film. Is the fact that I thought that there wasn't really any action to it. It's just that it's like the action just takes the OG Superman angle where he's like saving people and doing like common superhero things instead of like actually fighting a bad guy, which is, I feel like, why they overcorrected in Man of Steel and turned it into like DBZ and scaled back on the more like human side of things because of the complaints of this film. But
I 100% agree with all of that. And it does feel like they made, because like back in the 70s, they didn't know how to do an action scene with superheroes.
Yeah.
Like it's been 20 years. Like you've learned now. Like there have been multiple films. Spider-Man had come out. X2 had come out. Like you should have known how to do this. So it was weird that they didn't. But whatever. We go back and he's like unconscious in a coma. And Lois is at the Daily Planet trying to work through it all. And then we see Richard, who's like, you should go to him. And I'm like, you are taking the fact that your wife is in love with someone else incredibly well. So I just have to believe he thought Superman wasn't going to make it.
I think that dude's just a good dude, man. I just think he's just a good dude, man. He's like, man, that good. Man, this is just a dude she cared about, and they care about each other, and they used to like each other, so I respect that. But I'm the dad of her. I'm the father of a child. So, we going to have a long until
I fly planes, man. You can't compare to me. I fly planes.
Man. I fly planes, man. I saved his life.
I saved him. I saved the world.
I mean, I'm Superman. Technically true. That part not true. The rest of it technically true. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, she makes her way to the hospital with Jason, who just happens to want to go along. She whispers like a little stuff to him and kisses him on the cheek, and then they leave, and I think there's like a tear that comes out of his eye. Am I tripping? I'm misremembering.
I don't remember from him. I remember from Lois, but I don't.
Okay.
I don't know.
I was trying to think about what she whispered to him.
I assume she just whispered to him that this is your, like, either I love you or this is your son kind of thing, or maybe both.
I thought she whispered, you remember when you gave me them back shots on Mount Kilimanjaro? Yeah, something happened.
Maybe in the dirty version of this film.
Yeah, the uncut,
the father,
the BET uncut version of this film. Maybe that did happen. So she leaves, and then they pan outward and show like the people outside the hospital, and you realize Martha can't even see her own fucking son. And y'all trying to make me feel sad for Lois. I felt sad for Martha in that moment. I'm like, man, that's messed up. We also find out what happened to Lex and Kitty. They get trapped on an island, which I guess is why he let her live, because he got nobody else to be around. And I did not.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I feel like that was meant to be like the ironic twist for him. Is like, hey, you wanted land? Here's your land.
You got it.
I did not notice the part at the beginning of the film where like the one dog ate the other dog, because at the end of this film it's like implied like they just gonna wind up eating that dog. Because it was like, hey man, we ain't got no food, and you keep throwing the coconuts off. What are we gonna eat? And then they kind of like close in on the dog, and I'm like, oh well,
can I
what
eat
goes
that
around
dog?
comes around.
Can I eat that dog?
Anyway, just a short while later, Superman awakens from his coma, and Lois is like preparing to write a new article why the world needs Superman. Which I mean, you want a Pulitzer doing the other thing, so like make up your mind, While she's writing, though, Superman sneaks in to take a look at his kid, which is kind of creepy to me, but whatever. He realizes that it's like, of course, his son is part Kryptonian, and so he recites the speech that Jor-El once said to him. This should be a sweet moment, but since the way they handled this film is so kind of weird, it just feels a little skeevy. I don't know. Like I liked it, but I didn't like it, if that makes sense. I don't know. What did y'all think when he was like talking to his kid?
The actual speech was fine, but it did feel strange because she's still with Richard, and she definitely did not tell Richard that Superman is the father, and it doesn't seem like she wants to. So now it's like this secret they're keeping. I'm like, ooh. I mean, when the kids start flying,
it's gonna be obvious.
What you gonna say?
Like, you gotta have that conversation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd have to agree that I didn't think about that too much when I was watching it, but I mean, since it's been brought up, it's like, yeah, the way they handled that dynamic of things wasn't the cleanest. It makes things more complicated than it needs to be. And it kind of,
exactly.
Yeah, it does kind of put Superman in like the not bad, but like deadbeat dad / kind of like the ex that she doesn't want you to worry about type of guy. Like, it makes Superman bad in a way that really it shouldn't have happened. It really shouldn't have happened. Like, I feel like there's a much better way they could have wrote this to avoid all this, honestly.
Yep. I mean, we're at the end, so I guess you don't have to think too hard about it because, I mean, he tries to leave, and Jason kind of figures out that he's there, so he wakes up to say goodnight to his real dad, which is really sad. Meanwhile, Lois, realizes that that Superman knows, and so she like gives a look at Superman. She's like, "We see you around," and he's like, "I'm always around." And then he wishes her a good night, flies off into the metropolis skies, and I'm like, "All right, I guess that works as a finale." Really, the thing that holds this film back the most, other than the lack of action and the length, is the awkwardness of this relationship. This like you've introduced like a new love triangle. But it's kind of gross because like you've got Lois lying to a man. It would be one thing if like Lois and Clark had been together at one point and he knew, and like that would have been another thing. But like the way that they handle it here, it's just like, I don't know. It's too many secrets being kept, and it makes just Lois and Clark both look worse to me. But yeah, that's Superman Returns, y'all. What a film indeed. How does this make y'all feel about Superman, like the new one? Y'all more excited now?
I think for me, a little bit. I think this entire Superman journey, and for anybody watching this, we went through the entire old Christopher Reeve Superman films in our previous reviews. You can watch those as well. And watching all of them together enhances the entire experience. I don't think this movie hits the same if you don't see those old movies.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. So because I saw those old movies in succession, then saw this, it just kind of brought like, oh man, this is what old Superman feels like. And now after we had the Man of Steel era as well, which was a big departure, I feel like this new movie has an opportunity to try something new and return a little bit of what was old as well. So that's kind of the opportunity I see coming forth. And I am excited to see what they do with it because it seems like it's going in that direction to me. Kind of retrieving a little bit of the old while capturing some new elements, of course, crossing over the DC universe as a whole with a lot of different characters, which is a big departure from like a lot of these older movies did. So that's what I'm excited about.
And I agree 100% with Rajhkeem is that, honestly, I feel like I'm lighter on this film because we saw the 4 other movies and seeing, I understand what they were trying to do and I respect it in a lot of sense, but I do have to agree that the choice to essentially make a sequel to a movie that was at that point 19 years old wasn't really the right way to go about it. But yeah, I have to have respect for the fact that they tried to preserve the tone and like the style of the Christopher Reeve movies just done in a modern time at that time, of course. It does give me hope for the new Superman. I'm looking forward to it. I think that there's a lot of potential there. I put it this way. it needs to be good, because if it isn't, then the DC universe, like, it's gonna fall on its face right out of the gate. It's cooked.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that is good. I have faith that James Gunn is gonna do right.
I don't generally believe in James Gunn since of what happened with him and the Guardians, but like I do like everything I've seen from the Superman film. Like the last trailer really got me pumped. It felt like he was pulling from a lot of different elements. Like he's pulling from, classic Silver Age Superman with the Superman robots and like the Fortress of Solitude, but also like 90s DC in general with like the Justice League, what looks to be the Justice League International, although kind of a weird lineup because Hawkgirl and Terrific, but whatever. Metamorpho and Guy Gardner still count. And like just like all the other stuff, it just feels like a living, breathing DC universe, something we've never gotten a chance to see Superman just interact in before. And if they can nail just that, I'll automatically like this film probably a lot more than all the other ones. If it's a good film at all, it'll easily be the best of the DC films to me. So yeah, I am more excited having seen this because now I've got a chance to see like the full lineage of Superman and what he was up until like 2000, from like 1978 to 2006. And of course I did see Man of Steel, even if I'm not a big fan of it. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely more excited having watched these films, and now I'm like kind of primed to be ready to see what the 2025 film has to offer. All right, that's gonna wrap this week up. Tell us what you thought of Superman Returns in the comics if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, go give it a watch. Tell us if you think it was worth it. If you're new to us and like this episode, I need you to hit the like button. I need you to subscribe. I need you to tell your friends about us. And I need you to do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace.